your mind.
Now, as you know, we did a fundraiser for sleeping bags for the homeless, and we received fantastic donations well above and beyond what we thought we would get, and we managed to get 210 sleeping bags. Now, they came in last Monday, just after the show. Dave did a great job. He sorted everything out there, and we got the delivery down to Aisling, who is the coordinator for County Meath for the You're Not Alone charity. And then on Friday, I went down with Aisling just to see what went on and how the charity worked, and just to see exactly how difficult things are down in Dublin with the homeless and everything else. And it was to tell you that it was some experience. It really makes you humble for what you have. But we will be talking about that in a few minutes. And we did audio interviews, which we're going to play later on the show. We didn't do video because they felt that they didn't want people appearing on the video. They didn't want to show faces. So we just thought the audio interviews would be actually better. So we will be playing that later on. So again, everybody who donated to the fundraiser, you know who you are. A big thank you for that. It makes a hell of a difference. But I'll be touching base on that shortly. Just to suffice to say, as I say, I was down on Friday with Aisling, seeing how they charity work, and just fair play to them. I mean, fantastic people and what they do. It's all voluntary. Nobody's getting paid. They're just doing it off their own back. And when everything got packed up, you know, the main thing you kind of realise is that, well, I could go home and I could get into my bed and not worry about anything. But these people who were there, who came to the table, who got some food and stuff like that, they have to find a door to sleep in. That's their bed. And if they go to a hostel, well, if they do get a bed in a hostel, sometimes there could be a little bit of trouble. So sometimes they stay away from the hostel. So it's just brilliant work that they do on the with the charity. And we'll be playing the interviews later on. So just harrowing what goes on. But fair play, as I say, to the volunteers. They do a brilliant job.
Yeah, can you just mention what you told me there this morning about the homeless man? This was horrible.
That's on the list.
Oh, it's on the list.
We're going to talk about that later.
Sorry.
Before we do the interviews, we're going to be doing that. That's all part of the plan.
Okay,
part of the unscripted script.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, now we did say we would talk about the charity, and we have interviews by the volunteers of the charity You're Not Alone. And basically what happened was on Friday night, the volunteers all had, so it's all very well organised, and they all had high-vis jackets on. And I'm sure people, when they walked past and seen the volunteers with the high-vis jackets on, they probably thought that these people were getting paid. And maybe what I should have done is ask people walking past and say, do you see these people there? Do you think they're getting paid a salary and that's their job? And I'm sure the people would have turned around and said, yeah, that's probably their job. That's what they have to do. Not realising that they were just volunteering and they weren't getting paid at all. It's just the goodness of their own heart to actually help these people. One of the questions was that if they didn't turn up, I have asked on the interview, if they didn't turn up, if they decided, and they were quite rightly could decide that one night they might go, you know what, I'm going to stay home and watch TV. I'm not going to go into Dame Street tonight and help the homeless. And they could be in their right to do that because they're volunteers at the end of the day. The question is, what do you think would happen? And obviously the feedback was that people would starve, and they would starve. After seeing what happened on Friday, and it's a fantastic lifeline for the homeless, you know, and it's not only food, but there's clothes there as well. And it gives them, the homeless, their dignity and their self-respect as well. Now, before we play the actual interview, I just want to mention a few names because it's worthwhile mentioning. You have Marie, Mick and Kim with the red hair, and their father and daughter, and Phil, Billy, Anne and Linda, Chris, Amanda, Neil and Dave. And also, we have to remember that the people who are volunteering, in their own lives, they have their own set of problems as well. So he found that speaking to a few of them, like Marie is a full-time carer for her dad, and going out and doing a night with the charity is actually a night out for her. It's not like going out, getting drunk and, you know, going to the pub, having a great time. Going out because she's caring for her father 24/7. And so having the night out with the charity is actually a night out. And, you know, although it's great and what they do is fantastic, I wouldn't class as a night out. You know, I mean, you think you'd go to a restaurant or go and see a band or something like that. That would be more like a night out. But, you know, Marie's happy doing that. And the other people, obviously, Amanda I know is a big volunteer and interested in supporting Dolphin Rescue and a charity that take care of that. And Linda is an activist, and I know she was going. She in the past she'd taken photographs of the way horses were being treated in the circus, and I think she got a smack in the head by an iron bar by one of the people for taking the photos. So all these people in their own way are activists and doing their own thing, but obviously they come together as a great team every Friday and Sunday, that they come together week on week. And then I'd kind of say in all weathers, like the weather was really nice on Friday. It was quite warm and it was great. And there's people walking around in t-shirts and stuff like that. But imagine when it's snowing and when it's icy and it's cold and you're not getting paid. I mean, how many of us would actually do it week on week? Every Friday, every Sunday, turning up and doing that and not getting paid for it. It's a thankless job, but we'd like to say thanks to the people who do it, because they do a fantastic job, very professional, very well organised, and it's brilliant. And it's great to see that the donations that we raised through OAM, that the sleeping bags and the food that we raised, you know, is being well used. And as I say, you'll hear on the interview, we got news in the other day as well, real disturbing news. Aisling contacted us on Facebook and said that a woman's daughter that she knows had been waiting on the bus when she saw 4 young men approach a homeless guy sleeping. And one of them actually started to urinate on the homeless guy right in front of her eyes, with the others just looking and laughing. And without thinking, she ran over screaming at them to stop. And basically they gave her some abuse and ran off. And I think that is diabolical for the kind of society we live in. The poor man, I think he was 67, he was homeless in a doorway, and one of the guys went up and did that, and the other 3 laughing. I mean, that's just sick. It really is sick, isn't it, Steve? It
is. I mean, I bet you those 4 lads, I bet you they all went home to a nice comfortable bed that night.
I bet they did. But you never know, karma might kick in. Anyway, here's the interview we have Aisling, Mick and Anne telling us about their experiences and what they do for the charity You're Not Alone. Right, well, we're here with Aisling Lowe from the We're Not Alone charity in Dublin at the moment, down in Dame Street. And we're just having a quick chat with Aisling. We're just waiting on certain people to turn up, apparently, for the tables, and we have a car full of food ready to go for the homeless. But I just want to get a kind of an idea on what is going to happen tonight and what the plan of attack is, because I think this happens every Friday. But actually, give us an idea what, you know, loads of people turned up from the You're Not Alone charity with fluorescent jackets on, and everything getting ready to go. But give us an idea of what's going to happen now.
Well, usually now we're waiting on Mick to come. Mick has our van that... here's Mick now. He's actually starting to pull in now. So basically now what we're going to do is we're going to take out all the tables, gas stoves, 40-litre flasks out of the van and start setting up on the street. And we set up our street kitchen Friday and Sunday nights, and we feed nearly 300, maybe sometimes 400 people per night that are homeless and in need of hot food, clothing, toiletries, and maybe just a friendly ear to listen to them for an hour and have a chat or whatever, you know, the case may be. We wouldn't be able to do this work only for the people in Meath and Dublin and all over the country, really. People are pulling together and giving a lot of donations. They give clothing, shoes, food, toiletries, all them types of things, and that's what keeps our group functioning.
Fantastic. And tonight now, this happens, I think you said this happens every Friday. It's incredible what an operation to do every Friday. Obviously, the people that turn up here, the volunteers, you know, what's their background? Obviously, they're working for the same charity as yourself, but it's amazing that they give up their time and they volunteer to do this.
Well, we're a non-profit organisation, so we rely on people's goodwill. And with people's goodwill, we all just got together as a group and decided, yeah, let's do this. We'll go out and we'll feed and clothe and help the homeless as much as we can. And thank God with some of the people that have been donating on your programme, like 210 sleeping bags means you're saving 210 lives. That's the whole thing.
That's excellent.
You know, so it's 210 lives that will be saved with them sleeping bags, plus also the supermarket sweeps that I've been on with yourself, and the amount of food that had been donated, and like that, it has got us through the whole summer, really, that them donations of food. And like, I mean, the main thing, the sleeping bags, not only the food is very important, but the sleeping bags are lifesavers, because when we pack up and leave the street, then them people have to go to and find a doorway basically to sleep in and try and keep warm for the night. And like that, sometimes it's very hard to get the donations of sleeping bags because they're not cheap, they're costly. But we've had so many people who have donated from their own pocket, and a lot of people that do donate, and I can't stress this enough, they don't have it themselves. So it makes it more important to us to come out and do our bit.
Brilliant stuff. Well, what we'll do is after we finish tonight, we'll be here probably for a couple of hours, a few hours.
Yeah.
After we do sort out things tonight, we'll probably have another quick interview, and we'll just have a chat about how it went and the experience of being here in Dublin on a Friday night. I mean, it's very busy, very touristy, loads of people around, unbelievable. So we'll see how it goes. But thanks, Aisling. We touch base in a couple of hours.
No problem.
Okay, we're here with Mick. Mick is another volunteer with You're Not Alone charity, and Mick is the man with the van and the tables, and he does everything on his side. But I'm just going to have a quick chat with Mick and just get a take on what he sees going on tonight down in Dame Street with the homeless, and what he does on behalf of the charity. I know that he's the man with the van, but I'm sure he does a hell of a lot more than just having the van. Tell us what you do, Mick, for the charity.
I do most of the running around for the charity. Myself and my wife, we go down to Ashland and once a week, maybe once every second week, in Trim to pick up all the supplies that she has been donated. I basically get the van ready the 2 nights a week with my wife, and we fill it with clothes, sleeping bags, food, tables, water. Sunday's my day. I make the coddle or the stew or whatever on a Sunday night. Then basically that's what I do for the homeless with the van, you know. But we do a lot on the background side of it, where we're going 7 days a week, like collecting and delivering stuff, as well as that. If one of the homeless actually get a flat, my wife sorts out a load of hampers to bring in to the people that are really struggling, that have only got a place. Like she'll do them a big food hamper and toiletries and things like that, you know.
Okay, so why Mick? Why you, Mick?
Just basically see the way the homeless have struggled for years on the street and walking by them, and I said, well, we're not rich ourselves, but we said we might as well give something back, you know, out there to somebody that is actually struggling. And it's very sad when you see the children coming along, and that's basically it, you know.
And we have a mixed group of people coming, I noticed. Mostly men, for some reason. Do you know why that is?
Haven't got a clue. We have in the whole night we might do 10 women, but the 90 to 100% actually is men. And I honestly do not know. Maybe the wife has thrown them out, I don't know, but basically it is nearly all men, as you could see for yourself.
That's interesting that statistically, like, it's mostly men. Now, tell me something. What would happen if Mick and his wife and the volunteers didn't do what they do? If you didn't turn up here every Friday, because you have a full-time job as well, and you just said to me earlier that you were driving for 11 hours and you came up here tonight and you're doing the work for the charity. What would happen to these people?
Well, if we weren't here on Friday night, they'd starve. Simple, they get nothing. Like, as you've seen yourself with the clothes, it's like a jumble sale there, the way they dive into it, because they're for free. And if we weren't here tonight, they'd have nothing. Nothing from early afternoon when they get their dinner in one of the other shelters along. They have nothing after that, which is 1 o'clock, I think. They actually have no food, no nothing until we arrive at 7:30.
Wow. And what's your take on, surely the government should be doing something about this. What's your take on that?
The government should be, but also Dublin City Council should be doing something about it. There's lots of hostels, or lots of hostels actually closing down, and there is also hotels closing down that they could actually put homeless people into. But no, they don't, because to the government, they actually treat the homeless like dirt on their shoe.
I've noticed that there was a Garda van driving around a couple of times, and the side of the van was open, and there was probably about 4 guards sitting in. Is that a regular occurrence, and why are they driving around?
Well, it's everybody asks us the same question. On a Friday night in Temple Bar, we'd have a lot of youngsters drinking, and that is actually the public order unit, and there's actually about 16 guards in the back of that. And what they actually do is they move the youngsters out of Temple Bar, will not allow them in. But sometimes they give the homeless people will actually run away when they see them coming, because as everybody knows, the homeless get into trouble. They have family lives and bad lives and the whole lot. So that is basically why the public order unit are here every single Friday and maybe Sunday night too.
Okay, and have you seen any trouble yourself while you've been here?
Tonight, no.
No, just in general.
General, yes. We general. You can actually, a row could actually break off fairly quickly with the homeless people. It's because of drink or drugs or whatever related. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be that. You just have to move the wrong way at the table, and there could be a kick off. That's why on our group, You're Not Alone, we always have, if you notice, we've always have the men outside the table, bar one that is doing the close. The men are there. If a row breaks off between them, is the men line up across the table, how the women aren't hurt, behind the table, and it's shut down until such time as that row breaks away.
Brilliant. So you have it well organised. Now, I noticed that you have the clothes on the table and the shoes are on the ground, but you've only one shoe on the ground.
Yeah, we've only one shoe on the ground, and the reason why we do that is because we have chancellors that come along. We've actually moved on a fella tonight that we've only found out that he is a foreign national. He actually has 4 shops running in the Dublin city centre, and what he does is he takes the stuff and sells in his shop.
There you go. So no moral conscience from that person at all. Just feeding off the homeless people, really.
Well, that's it, Jay. They're chancing their arm. Like, we do get a lot of people like that, that'll come and chance their arm. And the way we think of that is, well, you're robbing somebody that really needs it out of it. So they're normally there when we come. They work in a gang, and the reason why they're there when they come, because all the good clothes would be there when we come first. All the really, really good clothes. Like, I'm not saying everything's not good. It's all good as far as we're concerned. And thanks to Ashlyn Lowe she gets 90%, maybe even 100% of our clothing. But they take the best stuff until we found out that they were selling it, and then we kept an eye. And what we do, we kept an eye, and we seen that it was worked as a gang.
Okay, now you set up here just underneath the Central Bank in Dame Street. Have you had any issues with the bank?
We've had, yes. We've had issues with Central Bank because they're beside the bin across from us now. There is actually a hole with slats on it. That is actually an air duct, and we used to chuck our soup down it. But if we'd left over soup when we were closed at the end of the night, or the lads, if they didn't like their soups or whatever, they'd chuck it down there. they got into trouble. We got into trouble with them over it, so we stopped doing that. And now what they tried to do was force us to get public liability insurance, which I didn't think it was a good idea, because at the present time, if a homeless person falls at our table, it means they could claim off us if they knew that we had public liability insurance. Plus, as we are a non-profitable charity, it means that we would have a big expense on our hands.
I think you're doing great work, Mick. And tonight again, I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing with the people. Thanks from OIM anyway, and all the listeners. Thanks for what you're doing. Much appreciated.
And thanking you for coming up tonight and looking to see what we actually do, so we could prove a point to different people that this is actually what we do.
Brilliant. Cheers, Mick. Okay, we're here with Anne from the charity You're Not Alone. Anne is one of the volunteers here in Dame Street helping out the homeless people. And we spoke to Aisling earlier on, and Aisling was telling us all about the charity. Can you tell us how it works for you and what drives you to come in here every week? I think every Friday, I think Sunday as well, you're in here. And just tell us a bit about what's going on tonight, and as I say, what drives you?
Well, I just believe I've kind of feel it's time that I pay back or give back in, and I'm a fair believer in people helping each other out. And if it's only a couple of hours a week, maybe a little bit of running around, cooking a stew or making a curry, that it's going to a very worthwhile cause. We're helping people who are desperate. They're at their worst, they're on the streets, and I just like to come in and do a bit, and that's what drives me really.
Okay, so why you? Why Anne to do it?
I don't know why me. I suppose I'm always been aware of the injustice in society. I'm involved in the Irish Housing Network. I believe that some people just don't get a fair shot. Particularly noticed that men, young single men, anyone with kind of alcohol abuse problems, substance abuse problems, are really being left just to manage on their own devices, and people aren't getting the rights, they aren't getting the chances or the opportunities. And what you actually have here is a cycle of poverty, and more people are getting pushed into that cycle of poverty. And there is no way of breaking out of it, because once you hit the streets, like, you really have hit rock bottom. And as far as the authorities like Dublin City Council and Fingal County Council, South Dublin County Council and DLR, they're not serving the purpose that they're here for. They're not housing people, and they're certainly not looking after. I think Alan will confirm that the majority of the people who use our tables are men, and they're usually single men, and they really are the bottom of the pile. Like, even if they went in to get housed tomorrow and went on a homeless list, the chances of them ever getting housed are zero. They're just not going to be homed. If they are homed, it's in a hostel, and there's no, they call it emergency accommodation, and it's one of the real big issues nowadays is there are no minimum standards in these hostels. There's no minimum standards in emergency accommodation. So you could go into a room and you might have no privacy. You might have no personal washing facilities. You certainly would be very, very lucky if you had somewhere where you could wash your clothes, and zero chance of you being in a place where you can cook a hot meal. So that's what we give. We give hot food. It's cooked. We cook it from donations and from ourselves as well too. My family would give me money, or sometimes they'd buy me food, and we cook from that. We also are very lucky that we're part of the Tesco Food Cloud, and we reuse everything that they gave us. Like, for example, last week I made a turkey stew, and every single thing was donated. Everything that was in that pot was donated. And so in that way, what you're actually offering people is basic hot food. We also do clothes. Clothes are also in a desperate need. So if you think about, you're out in the streets and it lash rain like it did the other day, you have nowhere to wash those clothes. You have nowhere to dry those clothes. So, like, people would come up to us and they wouldn't even have a pair of dry socks. So we'd have a huge demand for shoes and socks and jeans. Men's clothes is the biggest demand that we have for. We do have women come to the table, but they are in a minority. I'd say it's probably maybe 80% to 20% probably 80% men, but I see.
And just looking at the setup here, you have it well organised. You have one side of the tables with the food and the other side with the clothes, and obviously all the volunteers around. I mean, what would happen to these people if the charity wasn't here?
Well, there are a fair few super runs around Dublin City now, and they all kind of work together, so that's nearly every night of the week is covered. I don't know, on a personal level, I've had people say if it wasn't for yous, and we've seen people who have turned their lives around, who maybe have cleaned up substance abuse, or who have gotten a long-term emergency place in a home, and they will come back to us and they'll say it wasn't for yous. And sometimes it's just actually to stand there and to talk to somebody and just actually have a chat with them. Like, there was a girl there now a couple of weeks ago, and she's a regular at the table, but I hadn't seen her for a while, and when she came up, she looked really, really sick. Like, she really looked bad. There was another guy who had epilepsy, and he had been mugged, and his medication was taken. And he had, I suppose, mental health issues. One of our volunteers that accompanied him up to James Street Hospital sat there for the 2 hours with him. Now, unfortunately, the man's mental health didn't allow him to stay there and engage with somebody. But like any kind of support, like just to actually listen to what they're saying, listen to what people are saying. And one thing that you just cannot do is make any judgments on people. You just have to have that in your head. You won't make judgments on people.
Okay, saying that, and I totally agree with you, but I was talking to one of your volunteers, and it seems to me that there are some people who actually don't have a moral conscience, and one of your volunteers said there are some people who turn up and actually take the clothes and go off and sell them and give them to another shop rather than actually them clothes going to the homeless, which I just find is unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. We noticed that there was that was happening, that people were coming along, so we got far stricter on the clothes, insofar as like you get one pair of jeans, you get one pair of socks, one pair of shoes. So there's to a certain level we can't police what people do beyond what happens at the table. We certainly would stop anyone taking an excess amount of clothes, and as regards like main items of clothes, like a pair of shoes, a jacket, a trousers and a top, that would be it. But if we saw somebody like taking loads of clothes, we immediately stopped them, and they won't be allowed to take any more clothes. Just saying there now, we can see there's an elderly man just after approaching the table there. He brings up 2 massive pizzas every single Friday night. He does that. It probably makes him feel good. But he came up to us before and he asked what could he do. We don't ask for money, but we would prefer if people made a donations of food. So this man, every Friday night, he brings up those 2 huge pizzas.
That's brilliant. Now, we are doing the interview in the car for the simple reason is, and Anne will tell you, that we have seagulls and pigeons and birds everywhere, because where there's food, it's incredible. And the cheek of the seagulls and the pigeons, they just don't seem to care, and they're all over the place. How do you manage them?
Well, I'd say we're probably looking at very stormy seas. But we don't normally have that many seagulls. But I mean, it's definitely, there's a lot of them here tonight. And you know what seagulls are like anywhere there's food. And you can see actually some people are actually feeding them bits of food. So I suppose at the end of the day, we're all just looking to be looked after. Whether we're an ugly seagull or not, I don't, no offence to any seagull lovers. They wouldn't be my birds.
That's okay. So how long will this go on now, Anne? Probably for a couple of hours. When will you start packing up, or is there a time limit that you put on it?
Well, what happens is we usually go till about 10:30. Now, generally we run out of hot food around the 9 o'clock mark, 9:15. We get 2 deliveries. We go and collect the food from Tesco's, and we don't know what we'll get, but they're very, very generous around here. Both the Tesco's, the one here in Dame Street, and there's one down in Tampa Bar. So we get a lot of bread, and we get like the salad bar, and that, I mean, everyone loves that, like making up rolls and that. So we go till we literally run out of food, and that's what we do.
And do you ever get any trouble from the people that turn up?
We do, yeah. I'd be telling you a lie if we said otherwise. Saying that, like, we have a very strong crew, and there's a good, strong, I mean, I'm not being sexist by saying it, but there's a good, strong male presence. The rules of the tables have been long established, and you'll find that if somebody starts messing, most of the other homeless people will stand back, or they'll correct them, or they'll tell them to behave. We have had, maybe since I've been doing it about a year, maybe about 3 instances where the table was closed. So basically what that is, we just close down the table till any messing or anything is over and done with. But physically, no, we haven't. I have never seen anything like. I've never seen anyone be assaulted as such. I've seen homeless people fight among themselves, and sometimes that can happen, especially over the clothes if somebody wants something somebody else has. But we maintain the system, and we're very consistent with it, and we don't kind of make favourites. And I think most people know that this is the way the table works.
I have to say, this is the first time I've come in, and I think it's well organised. You're doing a brilliant job. So just to let people know, in what way can they help you? Just to say to them again exactly what you're looking for.
Well, as regards clothes, definitely men's clothes, jeans, jackets, shoes, runners, absolutely. Everyone needs them. As I said, if you get soaked, there goes your shoes and runners. As regards to food-wise, we need things like curry sauces, because we make curries, or soups to make the soups, rices, pasta even, and any other dried foods like biscuits and sweets and chocolate. Like, they go down a bomb. They absolutely go down a bomb. You put sweets out on the table, you have to put them out bit by bit, because they just be wiped away. Like.
And of course, the people can contact the charity You're Not Alone on Facebook. And do you have a contact number or email?
There is a contact number. It's actually on the Facebook page. I don't know it off by heart myself, but there is a contact number. So if you go on to You're Not Alone, if you're looking for the page, it's YOU_RE, You're Not Alone, and there is a phone number on that. So if you want to contact the page, or even message the page, and there are volunteers are spread out around Dublin. So, and we have Aisling in Meath, who does a fantastic job down there, absolutely brilliant. I mean, the amount of the generosity of people in Meath is just brilliant. The clothes, the food that comes up. Like, we'd be delighted when we see Aisling coming.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we'll be putting this out on the show and let people know as well. Thanks, Anne.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Right, okay, there you go. There are the interviews with Aisling, Mick and Anne. Now, we had planned to do a follow-up interview with Aisling at the end of the night, but it was very late and we didn't get around to do it. But needless to say, everything went brilliantly and very, very professional. And nobody judges anyone. They just go and do the job and help out the homeless people there. Brilliant work that they do, and fair play to Tesco's as well for donating the food to the charity. Every little helps, as they say.
Yeah, I have to say, just listen to them there, and I mean, what can you say? I mean, think that there are people out there, and we know they are. But I mean, I wasn't there on the night. You were there, and just listen to that. I mean, it built up like a mental picture, and what you were telling me earlier, I can actually visualize it, and it sounds like there's a lot of love in around the tables, but it also sounds like there's a lot of heartache as well, and a lot of pain where people have to, as you say, give up their own time to go in and do this when they shouldn't have to. If we had a government that was worth its salt, then, well, maybe homelessness wouldn't exist in the first place, or at least maybe the government would have measures in place to look after and take care of these people and give them a roof over their head. But unfortunately, it just happens to be the time we live in, I suppose.
And not everybody, by the way, is drinking and on substance abuse. You know, I mean, there are people who don't go near alcohol or drugs and they're just homeless because of their circumstances. So I want to clarify that as well. That's very important. But they do a fantastic job. I mean, how many of us would actually do it every Friday and Sunday, religiously every week? Very few people, and these people turn up and do this all the time. Now, there is great camaraderie and they do have a bit of a laugh, and it's not all doom and gloom. They're a tight team and they work well together, and they have a bit of ribbing, as you do over here in Ireland, with each other, and that kind of lightens up the mood, and it's great to see, and it's just brilliant work that they do. So fair play to all of them.
Open your mind.